This video is for the person who wakes up in the morning with all these lofty goals, and after a long day of being there for everybody else, you find yourself back in the fridge or back in the pantry, reaching for those sweet treats because it feels like it's the only chance you have to just give yourself a little reward. This video is for you. In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 strategies to stop late night snacking. Number 1 is to flip breakfast for dinner. Now remember, these are strategies. You don't have to do them, but these are time tested and very successful. When I say flip your breakfast for dinner, what I'm saying is that, especially here in America, we tend to like a sweeter breakfast. We like pancakes, we like pastries, we like cereal. I'm asking you to flip your mindset a bit on this and eat your dinner for breakfast. Chili? Maybe. Tacos? Sounds good to me. A hamburger? I know it sounds crazy, but if you find yourself in that pantry or in that freezer every single night with these like insatiable cravings or this insatiable need to either reward yourself or numb yourself or just feel something, then give it a try. What are the benefits of flipping dinner for breakfast, breakfast for dinner? In this case, eating a really savory, really hearty breakfast is not only going to set your blood sugar up to be really balanced, and if you followed the glucose goddess, or it's kind of a buzzword right now to talk about our blood sugar, but the truth is starting your day with a savory breakfast is going to have an impact. But more than that, a lot of times we have a more satisfying meal at dinner. A lot of times we're having like meat and potatoes and lasagna. Like, we love these really comforting meals at dinner. When you flip that to breakfast, you send a message to your brain that you're safe, that you're well fed, and that you're happy. It's not this like breakfast bar that you're trying to shove in really quick, or a little yogurt that does not have enough nutrients or calories to sustain a grown woman. You're not just driving through Starbucks and grabbing whatever's there and calling it breakfast. You're giving yourself, again, something satisfying, something enjoyable, and you're sending the message to your body that you are safe, you're well cared for, you're going to be taken care of, and you're not going to starve. So that's strategy number 1. Strategy number 2 is going to eat 3 square meals a day. In an environment where you are probably being told on every turn to intermittent fast, I'm going to tell you to not intermittent fast, especially if you're a woman and especially if you're over 40. I want you to eat 3 square meals. In strategy number 2, when I say 3 square meals, I'm talking about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And when I say a square meal, I'm referring to protein, carb, and fat at every meal. You get extra points if your carb has extra fiber in it, but that's for another video. For right now, just to help you with late night snacking, think 3 square meals, protein, fat, and carb at every single meal. And this channel, we are not low carb. We do not intermittent fast. We don't do anything extreme. We feed our bodies. We send the message to our bodies that we are loved, we are safe, and we are going to be well taken care of. Strategy number 3, I am so excited to share with you. It is called making a joy list. This was taught to me by my very dear friend and coach, Tiffany Peterson, over 10 years ago. So many times at the end of the day, we're reaching for sweets. It's because a lot of times it's the first time in the day that we want to enjoy something. Our days are filled with to-do lists. Our days are filled with goals and expectations, whether from ourselves or from other people. But the truth is, making a joy list can have a really big impact on the way that you feel and what ends up with your late night snacking. So this is how you do it. You get a piece of paper, and I recommend a piece of paper, not your phone. You can transfer it to your phone after you've made it, but there's something really important that happens when our brain processes information and it comes out of our fingertips onto a piece of paper through a pen or a pencil. It has to do with like sending messages to the brain and having neurons talk to each other. It's very important. So get a piece of paper, divide it into 2 columns, and put a minimum of 10 items in each column. The first list is 10 things that bring you joy that do not cost any money. The second is 10 things that bring you joy that do cost money. I'm going to give you a couple of examples and what went on my first joy list. I had a little bit of a hard time, and you might too, because especially as women, we aren't really hardwired to look for joy for ourselves, especially if you're a mom or if you have a lot of responsibilities. You probably know what your to-do list is, but you probably don't know what your joy list is. So I really want you to think about the things that light you up that are very simple on this free list. I'm going to share with you, when I first made this list, my oldest son, who is now almost 16, was little. He was probably only 2 years old. And one of the things I just really loved, I was in the middle of building a business and I had a lot of things that were occupying my attention. I had 6 children. I still have 6 children, but he was the youngest and he was at home, and Mondays was grocery shopping day, and we would go to this one grocery store that was lined with scented candles on one of the aisles. We would grab those candles off the aisle. He loved to grab them, take the lid off, smell it, and say, "Which one do you like, Mommy?" And we would smell these candles. And it was this little ritual of being together and grocery shopping and pausing in the busyness of a week and just having kind of this sacred couple of hours on a Monday that we spent grocery shopping, and it really filled me with joy. I loved looking into his little eyes. I loved laughing and, smiling when things smelled delicious and going, "Oh, that one smells gross." That's an example of something that's free on a joy list. On the side of the joy list that are things that cost money, I didn't really have a lot of extra money when I made this joy list. So I wouldn't have been able to put a massage on there, and maybe you can't either, but let me tell you what I did put on there. So I used to live about 30 minutes away from a Trader Joe's, which I love to grocery shop at. But if you have a Trader Joe's near you, you know that they have the best flowers. So even though I didn't have a budget at the time to do massages or anything like that, I did have $5 to buy a bouquet of flowers that were $4.99. And if you know, Trader Joe's flowers last so long. And so one of the items on my joy list that was a paid for thing was a bundle of flowers that I would bring home and put in this beautiful vase that I had got from the thrift store, put it on my counter. And I gotta tell you, that beautiful bouquet of flowers brought me so much joy. One, because it was a really beautiful bouquet of flowers, but two, it was the first time in my life that I actually took even just a small amount of money to invest in simply my joy. And so when we talk about late night snacking, what we're talking about is an anxiety that we're managing at the end of the day that has to do with lack. Sugar is for sure something that we reach for when we want to feel happy, or we want to have a serotonin boost or a dopamine boost, something that feels joyful and purposeful. And at the end of a long day that so many times is full of to-do lists and shoulds, there's so few things that we have left in life that it's very easy, and it makes perfect sense that we reach for sweets and treats and things like that. So by front loading our day with things that bring us joy and signal to ourselves, our nervous system, our body, our soul, that we're cared for, that we matter, and that we're worthy of these little investments, can go a really long way. So number 3 is making a joy list. I would love to know, what would you put on a joy list? I'd love to know. Share in the comments, what are some things that you just find a lot of joy in that either cost nothing or cost a little bit? And as a bonus, if you want a list of some of my best ideas for joy lists, be sure to stick around to the end. I'm going to share it with you. Number 4 is to have a treat with dinner. You heard me. And if you've seen my video on how to stop binge eating now, you'll know that I am a fan of giving yourself treats. So this is a strategy, again, to avoid late night eating. So by giving yourself a treat with dinner, it's almost a form of integrity and honesty in a lot of ways. You might be thinking, "Wendy, I can't have a treat with dinner, and I certainly couldn't do it every night." And I'm here to tell you that you can. Because even if we do girl math for a second, let's say you restrict yourself in the morning and you start with that, breakfast bar, that one little yogurt. You maybe give yourself the gift of, something halfway sensible at lunch. You're starving by the time you get home, but you're trying to be good. You try to limit yourself at dinner, and then you find yourself in the pantry at 10 p.m. And I can tell you from lived experience that what I can consume in the pantry or the freezer or the fridge at 10 o'clock at night far outweighs the calories and the impact of the treat that I would have given myself on purpose at dinner. Does that make sense? I'm not really big on talking calories, but let's do it for a second. Let's say that I restrict myself all day and I find myself in the pantry at night and I decide to have a bowl of cereal. Let's just say for fun that it ends up being 200 calories, but I'm not really satisfied because what I really wanted was a donut. So I go into the refrigerator in the freezer and I find a Haagen-Dazs bar. I think that's 380 calories or something like that, 300-400 calories. And let's say I eat that, but now I want something salty. So I go to see if there's any chips, but I don't keep them in the house, but I find an old stale tortilla chip. I do a few of those. That's not satisfying. I finally decide this is ridiculous. I'm going to bed. But what's the math on that? It's about 600 calories. Again, I'm not a big calorie counter, but let's rewind that. You have a nice dinner that you enjoy. Let's even say that you decide you really want a donut and you purchase it. And that 300 calorie donut, you just indulge in it and love on it and just enjoy every bit of it with dinner. Do you see how you're ahead? You got your joy list. You had a burger for breakfast. You had a donut with dinner. I promise you're not late night snacking. Number 5 is to do a check-in with your mindset. So I've mentioned a few times, if you've caught during this video, the idea of being in the business of serving others or doing to-do lists or doing shoulds all day long. I mean, this is real life, right? We have bills to pay, we have relationships to manage, we have goals and dreams of our own. But when I say do a mindset check, I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. What in my life am I saying no to when I really mean yes? And what am I saying yes to when I really mean no? And I want you to really think about those questions. It can be really easy for all of us to become a victim of our own lives before we even realize it. And when we paint ourselves into a corner of shoulds and thinking that we don't have choices or we don't have a way out, suddenly sometimes the only way out feels like through the ice cream bucket or through the box of donuts. So when I say do a mindset check, really check in with yourself and ask yourself those 2 questions. Where am I saying yes when I really mean no? And where am I saying no when I really mean yes? And this is the stuff that will change your life. And I would really like to know in the comments, where are you saying no when you really mean yes? And where are you saying yes when you really mean no? One of the quickest ways to get out of night eating is to be the hero and the chooser of your own life. Be sure to check out How to Stop Binge Eating for more insights.